Hey there, and welcome back to the Total Transition Podcast, where we explore the transition journey with a focus on the human at the center of it. I'm Jordana McGonigal, your host, and every other week we bring you inspiring stories from veterans who have successfully navigated their own transitions, as well as practical insights from experts in all aspects of living fully. Now, this week we are talking with Robyn Grable. Now, if you don't know Robyn, you probably should. She is the founder and CEO of Talents Ascend. Now, Talents Ascend is an organization committed to fostering innovative solutions that bridge gaps in the workforce and empower small businesses. With a focus on skill-based training, they are reshaping traditional hiring methods and supporting entrepreneurs to build resilient, thriving enterprises. So, Robyn, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jordana. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, Robyn and I go way back, way like to the beginnings back. But I'm excited to finally have her on. There's been a lot of change over the past couple of years. And real quick, we're going to do our usual of getting into like who you are and your transition story. But Talents Ascend now, they work with a number of different groups, not just veterans, right? You have the Veterans Ascend, but a lot of other stuff too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Military spouses, diversely able, justice impacted. Those are our four core advocacy communities that I work for.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a lot about that toward the end. But before that, we got to find out more about you. So I always start off with your story, right? Because that's really what is really helpful to a lot of people is understanding how other people made decisions to move forward. How do you navigate that change and learning from other people's mistakes, but also successes? So to start with, tell us about your military experience. Like, how did you decide to get in? And then what did you do while you were there?
Yeah, I love that story. I grew up in what felt like a small town to me in Indiana. Landlocked, of course. And I just didn't have, my stepfather did not want to divulge our finances. So I was not able to fill out even the FAFSA form to get a grant or any sort of funding for college. So I had no choice but to find something else to do. And it just so happened the Navy recruiter came to our high school one day.
Right there.
Right there. Opportunity. It just walked up and smacked me in the face. And he basically said, hey, join the Navy and see the world, as was the slogan back in 1979. May still be, I don't know. But, and I thought, wow, okay, I'm going to join the Navy and see the world. And so I joined, and that was in probably, I don't know, March, April of that year. And I went to MEPS in May. And I remember the day that I left for MEPS, my mom was like, and that's the military entry program. But my mom said, please don't sign anything. Just go hear it out. And I remember coming home and going, I'm leaving July 24th.
I did it. I signed it all.
Did it. I'm going. And it wasn't it was really just a decision that was of timing that I didn't think about, wow, I'm going to serve my country. I'm going to put the uniform on. It was, I needed a way out of my small town, what felt like a small town to me. And I needed something where I could belong to something bigger than me. I always did really well in school. It was where I shined. And because I couldn't go to college or didn't feel like I had an avenue to go to college, I felt like I could join the Navy and be part of something bigger than myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you signed the papers.
Yeah.
I love how recruiters, in every single story, recruiters are just like there.
Oh, yeah. Hey, opportunity, there. Right? You got to
get recruiters. Want to know the magic. There's some sort of magic 8 ball or something telling me you need to be right here at this time. Yeah.
Right. You just never know. And it happens. So, so I had never been on an airplane before when I flew from Indianapolis to Orlando to go to basic training. And I'd always had ear problems. So my first experience on an airplane was horrific. I was in so much pain. My ears were totally clogged up. I could not hear anything by the time I got off the plane. And so we land in Orlando and we're, gathered because there's hundreds of recruits coming into Orlando from all over the country. And You have to stay in the airport until they fill the bus and get you to the base. And so by the time I got to the base, it was probably 2 a.m. And I was absolutely just, I was like, what the heck did I do to myself? Where am I? I'm away from home. I'm in pain. Nobody cares. I'm like, you're the Navy now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't complain. And so that was my first experience of, 6 o'clock, 4 hours later, we got to the base at 2, we got to sleep 5:30. They woke us up to do our PT, our physical training that morning to kind of get our baseline for where we were physically. And so it was an experience. And I just remember running through the gym, and I could, fortunately, although I don't have a really great relationship with my mother, I could see her face say, just keep going. You're here. Just keep, right. Just, you can do this. You can do this. So, but I loved being in the Navy. I loved wearing the uniform. Now, was it all sunshine and rainbows? Unfortunately not. I served from 1979 to 1988, a time when women could not do certain roles, a lot of roles. We were told no, not because I wasn't smart enough, not because I wasn't strong enough, but clearly just because I was a female.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough because I was like, don't tell me I can't do something. Why not? Tell me why I can't do it. And well, just because, we don't allow females in those roles. And so I became an advocate at that point. So it's kind of a full circle moment for me of where I started in the Navy to what I'm doing today, advocating for people's skills. If I can do the job, if I can pass the test, the same thing as the guys do, why can't I do the job? And so I really fought for that. But it was tough because back then, men didn't want women in the military. And you had two sides of the coin where you'd have the older generation who kind of wanted to take you under their wing. Oh, you're my granddaughter, you're my daughter, I don't want anything to happen to you. To the flip side of all the younger sailors and people in the military that thought women were only there for promiscuous reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not easy, but I'm a scrappy fighter. I made my way through it, but I loved wearing the uniform, loved what I got to do and be part of something that just, now looking back on it, certainly you have a better appreciation for something than you did while you're going through it. But I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah. So with all those restrictions, what was your role at that time? What are the types of things that you were doing?
So I actually went into the Navy undesignated, and I don't know if they do that anymore now, but I wanted to go in so badly. I was like, oh, I don't need an occupation yet. Just let me in and I'll figure it out. And so I got to I actually did pretty well in basic training. And because they didn't have enough female company commanders, they call them, those are the drill instructors, they actually chose 5 of us from the current units that were in training to be assistant company commanders. And I got chosen to be one of those 5, which is pretty cool. So I immediately went from being trained to being the trainer, being what we thought of as brainwashers back then. But, so I got to do that for 3 months. And then my first real duty station was Iceland. So I went to Naval Air Station, Keflavik, Iceland, which was an experience. It was a 9-hour flight, me in flights. So, that was fun. And it was in the back of a C, I can't remember the name of the plane, but anyway, it wasn't a passenger plane. Let's just put it that way. And so my first duty station, I got there, my assignment was to work with just facilities maintenance. And so I was cleaning the captain's office every morning until I found an occupation that I could do. Which ended up being data processing, which again, full circle, now that I'm running a kind of an AI, right, data processing kind of company. It's just how funny things work out. But so I chose data processing and excelled really well. Back then, data processing encompassed quite a few things. Of course, computers were there, and the Navy had huge Honeywell system computers at the time. We were tracking submarines using data points and all this computer stuff, but it also encompassed HR, a little bit of payroll, just other things. And it eventually, when I got out, it had broken into 3 different roles. Data processing was what chose me.
That's That's a first. I don't think I've ever heard that on this one. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you go through this, obviously, let's see, 79 to 88, 9 years in, that kind of thing, dealing with boundaries and limitations inside, obviously. And then what was it that was kind of the tipping point? We're like, okay, yep, this has been fun. I loved it.
Right.
But also,
Yeah.
I'm out. Right.
Yeah.
So what was that? What was that point? Do you
It
remember?
definitely was a tipping point. Oh, absolutely. Very, very poignant for me. I was stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii for 3 years. Two of that, I wanted to be an officer because I thought, well, I kept hearing this is the way we've always done it. It's the way we'll always do it. I thought, well, maybe I'll become an officer and I can change the Navy.
Good job.
So I went to work. I put my package together for a limited duty officer position. And I mean, I worked for 2 years on that thing. I went to school to get my degree. I did volunteer work. I had all kinds of great reviews. I mean, I had a stellar package, recommendations from admirals and all over, I mean, it was a perfect package when you read it. And I was so excited about going up for an officer. I had just passed the test to make E7, which was pretty quick in less than 9 years, going from non-designated to an E7. That was a pretty good accomplishment. So I went to Quantico for programming school. I was on my way from Pearl Harbor to Monterey, California, and I found out that the limited duty officer program did not rate any administrative or data processing or whatever designation I was trying to get for. They didn't even open my package. So nobody even read it. And I was brokenhearted. I was so upset because I'd worked so hard. And I thought, well, if they had chosen just one person and at least they had looked at what I had put together and had accomplished, it would have meant something. And because they didn't even bother to open the package, I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I busting my rear end and have all these skills and all of this to bring to the table and nobody's valuing it? And so I made that decision. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Well, a couple of days later, my programming instructor came to me and said, you didn't sign your re-enlistment papers in Hawaii, so you either need to sign them now or you need to leave. And he said, I can stall them for a couple of days because I was top of the class. I was almost done. And he said, I can stall them for a couple of days, but you need to make a decision. And so I said, wow, is that like God shining like this huge spotlight on me saying, hello, this is your opportunity. You can get out. And so I was at the 9-year mark. I thought, if I re-enlist, I'm going to be at 13, which means 20. You got to, if you're past the 10, you might as well keep going as long as you can. And I had my young daughter. I was getting a divorce, and I thought, what do I do? And it just seemed like the opportunity was presented to me, and I chose to get out. And so I didn't sign my re-enlistment papers, and I finished up Quantico and programming school, and I was in uniform one day, uniform gone the next day.
Yeah, so that's not a transition. That's like a switch.
Yep. Yeah. That's like a drop in the, like you're just, the hatch opens and you're done.
Right. Yeah. So for all you guys out there listening that have like 12 months to go, 18 months to go, listen, at least you got that, right? You got the prep time.
Well, and even back then they didn't have TAP. They didn't have a transition assistance program at all in any way. And the sad part about that for me was I recently found out, I was looking through my discharge papers and whatnot to get my VA benefits and stuff. I saw a note on my medical report for my discharge that said, check in with your civilian doctor in the VA about your disability. 37 years. I did not get my VA benefits or my disability compensation because I didn't even remember seeing that on there. And there was nobody to help advise me to, hey, here's what your here's what your benefits are. Here's what you should be doing. Nobody said any of that to me. So yeah, listeners out there, take the time to understand your VA benefits, your transition, what that's going to look like. It's so important because that could have changed my life. I mean, I was a single mom, I struggled, and my transition after that was 12 years of 10 different jobs in 4 different states, trying to find my purpose again, trying to find where my skills fit, without any support at all from any sort of veteran service organization. So it is so important. There's so much more today. Even TAP with its limits and the barriers there, but even that will help you a little bit more than I got.
Right. Well, so walk us through that time, right? Because we at Recon, we see a lot of people who get out and they're like, I got the perfect job. And then 3 months, they're like, nope, not the perfect job. I'm going to get this perfect job. And the perfect job keeps evading them. And then, it's 4 years, 7 years. And they're like, what am I even doing here? What? So for you, and especially not having resources now, there's 44,000 something VSOs. You can figure it out, right? Yeah. It's not going to be handed to you, but there's resources.
Absolutely.
But at that time, so what does the mental toll of that do? Because, I kind of know from our experience, but talk about that a little bit. What does that do when you are bouncing and you feel like you can't settle, right?
Yeah, it's it's funny because I saw somebody post today is that your mentality in your 20s and your 30s is so different in your 40s and your 50s. I was a single mom, and part of it was really just surviving. We were just surviving versus I should have been thriving. I had 9 years of training in the military with computer systems, with some of the best teachers in the world, helping me learn, and none of that was of value to anybody on the outside. And I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to present myself and say, hey, I've got these skills. This is what I can do for your company. So I was always starting over and hoping that I could get into an entry level position, which is still what a lot of veterans go through these days, is I'll just get into an entry level position and work my way up. Mm-hmm. And I did that a couple of times, but still not enough that I was fulfilled. I had a sense of purpose. I felt valued, and I was using the skills I knew I had, but I just didn't know how to talk about them. I didn't know how to present them. So every time I would leave and say, okay, let's move to California and I'll get this job here. And okay, I'm going to use these skills and I'm trying to work my way back up. Eventually you get, tired of that. And it is a mental toll. It was hard. I look back on it now and understanding also, as I've gone through the VA benefits process and the things that happened to me in the Navy with my MST and how I internalized that and ended up with physical issues because of it. I think I still internalized a lot of that as I was going through that 12 years out of the Navy. I just needed to put food on the table for my daughter. I needed a roof over our heads. And it was tough. It was not easy, and it was mentally exhausting. But I look back on it now and I think, wow, I survived it. I did. Mm-hmm. And it's why I do a lot of the work that I do today, because I don't want other veterans, military spouses, people that have barriers to go through any sort of transition like I did. It's just, you don't have to. Just so please don't. Please reach out, because it's not, you're worth more than that.
Right. Well, and to that point, a lot of the challenge, we just had a webinar yesterday on how to translate skills, how to create a pitch, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is really just the communications aspect, figuring out how to talk in a different language, because guess what? That HR rep is not going, they might take courses. A lot of them are investing time in the veteran hiring process. I don't want to minimize that, sure. but they're never going to get it, right? No. They're never going to get it. They're not that. You're going to come in there with an acronym and they're like, I don't know what that meant. I don't have the time to look up what that meant. Yep. I'm going to end up on the deep dark web if I go and look up what that meant. Right. So, right. So when we were talking about, because, Veterans Ascend, Talents Ascend has done a lot of that translation, the heavy lifting on that. So can you talk about how, obviously your experiences shaped what that looked like, but what do you see in those challenges when it is a communications issue? How are you working with veterans in different groups to really get on the level that the HR people, and I won't say it's a higher level, it's just a different level, right?
Yeah.
Of where they are.
Absolutely. So yeah, one of the things when we created what was Veterans Ascend to start, is we knew the barriers were that translation piece. How do you take, I'm an infantry, person in the military. How do I take that and make that civilian language and civilianese? And it really, that's what the catalyst was for, Veterans Ascend. It was taking that MOS, that military occupation specialty, that NEC, and translating it into just plain language skills, not just a titles translator though. So there's a lot of systems out there that will translate a title and say, hey, you were infantry, you can be a police officer, security guard, all that, private investigator. But we took it a step further and said, what are the inherent skills, like the dig deep skills, technical and soft skills, that someone in the infantry has learned over their time in the military? And it can be things like equipment maintenance, human resources, logistics, supply chain, just so many different things, and security, of course. But there's so much more to what we learn in the military than our core title. As I was talking about, data processing was basically kind of 3 different jobs rolled into the title of data processing. But if you just translate data processing, you're going to get all kinds of computer, work, right?
Type in this form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we took it a step further to say, what if you look at the job responsibilities of somebody in the infantry, in the military, what did they do? There's leadership in there, right? There's training. So there's all of those things equate to almost every occupation out there. Mm-hmm. Any company is looking for somebody that has leadership abilities, learning adaptability, training, being able to train someone, equipment maintenance, all logistics, all these things. So if you look at, my title of infantry and all I can be is a security guard, well, first of all, I don't want to do security anymore. How does that help me? Second of all, I've got a lot more skills than that. What else can I do? So we answered that question. So what else can they do? And be able to say, here's the skills that a civilian would understand. Equipment maintenance, mechanic, those kind of things. Anyone with or without military experience is going to understand these skills. And so that's how we bridged that gap of helping them say, don't even worry about your title in the military. You don't even have to go there, because first of all, the second you introduce any sort of confusion in somebody that doesn't understand what you did, their brain has switched off already. They can't even, they're stuck on, wait a second, I don't even know what that is. I can't even, how do you fit into my business? I just, and now you've lost them.
Right.
But if you go into it saying, I have done years of leadership training, logistics, supply chain, all of these things, equipment maintenance, I've worked on this equipment, all these, I've done human resources for a troop of 40, soldiers. When you start to talk about it that way, they're like, okay, wait a second. We've got a team of 40 people we need you to lead. We've got a training opportunity that we need you to be a trainer for. You're speaking their language. Yeah. So that's why we do it differently than really just almost anybody out there. So.
Yeah. And I think that you make a great point. The soft skills alone, right? Yeah. Not how you were able to actually functionally do the job, but the soft skills alone coming out of the military from people who've been in for 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are worth the marketing effort in, corporate America. It's, uncanny. And it's uncanny how much that gets overlooked.
It does.
Yeah, not just by HR, but by the applicant themselves, right? They don't, I did that.
Yep.
You did that. Put it on the paper.
Exactly. Well, I think part of the problem I see is that they're told as they go through TAP, again, limitations of TAP, everybody wants to hire a veteran. Well,
don't get me started.
Right? Exactly. And everybody wants to give you 6-figure salaries.
Mm-hmm.
That is not true.
Okay,
And
so we're going to break this out for everybody who's listening. It's a lie. It's a lie. There are lots of people who will, but not everybody will.
But the key to it, and you said it though, the key to it is they're not just going to hand it to you. Mm-hmm. Like you have to participate in that opportunity. So you can't just walk in the door and say, I'm a veteran.
Give me my figures.
Right? Yeah. That's not how it works. You've got to participate in educating and promoting yourself on what you bring to the table and how you present that. And then, you're going to go through trial and error of, you're not going to find the right fit right away. But if you walk in knowing you're confident in your skills and how you present them and why you add value, you're going to make the better impression than just walking in saying, okay, I'm here. I'm a veteran. Right. Hire me.
Yep. And how much do you really see? Because this is interesting. I don't get to talk about this much with anyone else, but how much do you see that really still happening? It's the disconnect between what I was told and what's actually happening is not the same. We see it when we get people and they've internalized it, right? They told me that everyone wanted to hire a veteran, but no one's hiring me. And so it must be a me problem, right? That's when we will see, through coaching or something at Recon. But how much are you seeing that in the actual job hunt process as well?
It's horrible. The recruiting process is broken. Mm-hmm. And I will get on my soapbox and, we could talk for hours on this, but it's broken, right? It's just completely broken. For corporate America, it's lip service, it's laziness, it's I'm going to slap military friendly on my website and you're going to believe that I'm going to do everything I can for you as a veteran. I'm going to open doors, golden road, whatever. It's just not true. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's just not true. They can hire all the military recruiters they want, but at the end of the day, what they're asking for is a resume and an application process. 2 of the biggest discrimination pieces and tools out there. Mm-hmm. Every time you write a resume, somebody's going to find something wrong with it. Every time you apply for something, you're going to find something that you don't think you have the skills for. Because of the way they worded it, you're going to take yourself out of the running, or they're going to eliminate you because of the barriers that they've put in those applications. Until we get rid of those 2 things, we are going to still continue to have problems, and not just for veterans. Military spouses, 21% unemployment rate, ridiculous in this country. With the skills that military spouses bring to the table, with the fact that military families can't put food on the table. Something's wrong with this country when that continues to happen. And we've got corporations out there saying, we're military friendly. Mm-hmm. What does that really mean? What are you actually doing to remove the barriers to get somebody an opportunity to talk with a human about their skills? Mm-hmm. What are you really doing?
Yeah. And shout out to the companies who are doing that. There are some. But a banner does not a program make. So just keep that in mind for everyone who's
or even a military recruiting team. Just because you hire a bunch of veterans to if your process is broken and you expect those recruiters to follow a process that's broken, it doesn't matter how many veterans they connect with or how many veterans they talk to say, hey, this is a great company. If that process is broken and they can't get through to that human being to talk about their skills, how are you helping them?
Right. So from your perspective, then, knowing all of this and knowing that we could go on for hours and hours, and we won't because we love you guys, we'll do it in private. So knowing this and shedding some light on the realities of the situation, what are the things that current applicants, current job seekers need to do? Like if you had the top 1 thing, top 3 things, top 5 things, what do they need to be doing to take ownership of this journey? Yep. Because again, they might be military friendly, the company might be military friendly, they might be doing a bit, but it's your job, it's your life. And if you don't own it, then no one else will. So what are the things that they need to be doing to take ownership of this process in order to go about finding the right job, the right fit, the right culture, et cetera, et cetera?
The first thing I would say is you have to take an internal assessment of who you are, what matters to you. If you need a sense of purpose, is that going to matter? So now you need to find companies that have a purpose that resonates with you, right? If there's some sort of clean, green, whatever it is, you have to know that, because if you just walk into an interview with a company and you think they're great, but you don't know what you're truly looking for and what truly matters to you, you're going to flounder, excuse me, in that interview. So take that assessment of yourself. What matters most to you? And you don't have to compromise, because there are 33 million businesses in the US. You don't have to just pinpoint yourself to one business if that business doesn't resonate with you, because you're not going to stay. Bottom line is you're not going to be happy. So understand what your internal drivers are. Do you need a sense of purpose? Do you want to be in a small business? Do you want to work for a large corporation where you're just a number? Or do you want to be part of a smaller team? What is that really matters to you? Then figure out, of course, I'll shameless plug on Talents Ascend, translate your skills into plain skills language, not just titles translator. Don't just translate your title and think that, okay, that's all I can be. Dig deep into what you did in the military and what skills you bring to the table, and then learn how to tell your story. Practice talking about your skills. Practice talking about how you applied those skills, whether in the military or volunteer work or wherever you learned them or earned them. Practice that with a buddy, with a mentor, just someone. And again, like you said, Jordana, there's so many resources out there today. No one should be trying to do this alone. No one should be paying any more dummy tax, because people like me have already paid it. There's plenty of people out there that can tell you how to navigate stay away from the holes. And so again, know yourself, know your skills, and then don't settle. Don't settle for something that isn't who you are just because you think, I'm going to take an entry-level position, I'm going to work my way up. If you're in a big business, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Not every time. Maybe 1 out of 1,000. Maybe you get lucky, but mostly you're not going to. Right. But if you can find a small business in your local community that you could work side by side with that business owner and help them grow, there's a sense of purpose. There's a sense of, truly meaningful work that you can do. And there are more small businesses in this country than there are large corporations. And, people say, well, small businesses don't offer growth. They don't offer larger salaries. Yes, they do. Mm-hmm. Find ones that do. They're out there. I promise you, they're out there. But you have to do the work. You have to figure out who you are, what you bring to the table, and where you want to be. That's your job.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback off your shameless plug, so the first part of that, figuring out who you are, figuring out what you want, where you want to go.
Exactly.
We got you. We got some new stuff coming out that'll help you do that in a week, get a little bit more clarity on that kind of stuff. But you can shoot right over from us, right over to Talents Ascend, get your application in there, start translating those skills, and then it really is just about making sure you're on the right path, right? Don't get distracted by the shiny things. Yeah. The shiny things may not be a good fit for you. So, I think it's a great point. And it just reminds me, HR, I know veterans who will go in and be like, well, I could do any job. You just tell me what you got open, right? And they're not your psychiatrist. They're not your best friend. They're not your mama. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to go hand pick a job for you out of the ether and see if you could do it. You have, just to piggyback on what you just said, you have to do the work. You have to figure out where you're going and then find a job that works with that. And hopefully it's an ideal fit because you've done all the work with translating. You know what you want, how to communicate what you're good at, and you go out and get it. So Yeah, I think that's definitely a vibe right there. So,
just a point on, people saying I can do anything, just what happens when you say that HR person is going, okay, now you've just made me do all the work. I'm done with it.
Like, no, you can't. And also, I don't have the energy right now to figure out where to put you.
Yeah, exactly. Or the time. And that's not, that's not my job. You came here looking for something specific from us. You should know what that is.
But guess what? If you can market that as adaptability, growth mindset, okay, now we've got some stuff. Those have become skills that you now have to go get the job with the title that you want, that you did the research on to figure out what they're offering.
Exactly.
Well, awesome. Well, guys, this has been a great episode. Robyn, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really, really fun. And I'm really excited to see the growth of Veterans Ascend over the years. Great stuff, guys. Definitely check them out if you are in the job search. It's definitely worth checking out and putting in your information, signing up for an account. I'm not getting paid for this, just saying what I know. So, Robyn, thank you so much. For all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in once again. We will be back in another week or two with another episode. In the meantime, find Robyn, connect online. Here's her LinkedIn down below if you're with us on video. If not, if you're on audio, you don't get it. So you're going to have to find her on your own, do the hard work. But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you. We are here again, Robyn, me, Recon, Ascend, 44,000 other organizations are out there for you. You don't have to go this alone, and you're not alone. So keep that in mind. Definitely tune in for another episode, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.